Shalom Aleichem Rabotai, Shavuot Tov and a Good Tavach. Mishnah Yomi is continuing in the first parak of Challah at Mishnah Vav. Now we're continuing items that might be made out of flour from the 5 grains from Mishnah Aleph, but for some reason, due to their preparation, are not chayev in Challah because they're not really bread. So Mishnah number 6, Hame'isa. Now you notice Me'isa has like the word Isa, meaning dough, in it, but this is dough made a different way. This is made by dumping flour onto boiling hot water. So basically they're cooking the flour before they make it into a dough and then put it in the oven and bake it. So Beit Shammai Potrin, he says it's not exactly dough and it's not chayev in challah. Beit Hillel machayvin. Beit Hillel says no, it does require separating challah. Ha-chalita. Now, chalita is kind of the opposite of meisa. Chalita is pouring boiling hot water onto raw flour. So it ends up cooking the flour as it's forming the dough, and then they're going to throw it in the oven and bake it into something like a bread, but apparently with different consistency. But here, Beit Shammai mechayvin. Beit Shammai says chayvin challah. Beit Hillel potrin. And Beit Hillel says it's pater from challah. The Gemara in Pesachim, Lamed Zayin, discusses the extent of this machlokes. Maybe they agree in certain cases. So you can see over there for details. It does remind us that we do differentiate in halacha between pouring hot water onto something or putting something onto the hot water. As we know, of course, from making tea on Shabbos, we differentiate between the irui, the flow from a kli rishon, and if you put that into kli sheni first and then a kli shlishi, then maybe, according to some sources, you could even use a tea bag on Shabbos, but not, of course, by dumping boiling hot water from the kli rishon onto the tea bag. That's going to be cooking, in any event, similar to this case here. Anyway, the Mishnah continues, Chalot Toda, or Kikei Nazir. If someone made challahs for the carbon toda, the offering of thanksgiving, which is accompanied by 40 kinds of bread, and some of them are matzah, and some of them are challah, or Kikei Nazir, this is kind of the wafers brought with the carbon of a nazir. A nazir was somebody who let his hair grow and avoided wine for a certain amount of time. And when he brought his offering, it came together with these rikikim, this form of bread. Ason la'atzmo pater. If somebody baked these items for his own use, for his own carbon toda or his own carbon at the end of his naziris, they're pater from separating challah. Limkor b'shuk chayev. But if he's putting together a dough and he's going to sell this, obviously, he lives in Yerushalayim in the time of the temple. We should be zocheh to see such a thing, where bakers would bake these doughs, these breads, in preparation for pilgrims who are coming to Yerushalayim, who are going to need to buy their lachmei toda and their kikei nazir to bring their carbon. So if there was a baker who did such, prepared such for other people to bring it for their karbanos, he's be chayev to separate challah from the dough. Continuing to Mishnah Zayin, Nachtom, a baker, She'asa se'or lechalek. He's made a se'or, a sourdough, to divide. Chayav b'challah. He has to separate challah first. Se'or is famous from Pesach because se'or is like, it's chametz, but it also makes other things chametz. It's like a starter, a sourdough, a yeast itself, which is going to make the dough rise, going to turn other things into chametz. So it's really bad on Pesach, but it's really good if you're making challahs. Here the baker is preparing a large amount of sourdough and he's going to give it out to other people. He does have to take challah because Lamaisi is making a large dough. So if he's not able to sell his starter, his yeast, his sourdough to enough people, he's going to go ahead and bake it into a big sourdough loaf, and he's going to end up with a big piece of bread to sell. So he is chayev to take challah in that case. The Mishnah continues, Nashim shenatnu lenachtam lasad lehemsor. A number of women got together and they gave the raw ingredients to the baker to make for them a large sourdough, and they're going to, of course, divide it among themselves, take it home, use it for their own baking needs. Im ein b'shel achad mehen kishir. If not one of these women has the amount, the 5/4 of a kav of dough to be chayev and challah, p'tura min challah, then they are pater from separating challah, even if combined they would have more than enough. You have a number of women getting together, and then the baker is going to give each a portion of the sourdough, and each portion is less than the minimum required amount to separate challah, so he doesn't have to separate any challah from it, unlike the first case. Shkoyach Rabosai, Ketiva v'chatima tova, gut gebench tiar.